If you or someone you know has diabetes, you may have built up an extra supply of test strips and lancets. That's where we come in. We'll buy the supplies that you don't need and resell them to those in need to prevent waste. Help us make diabetes management more affordable. Visit us at teststripswithaz.com.
All right, we have Vince Murdock on the show. There's been a lot going on in the life of one of the bright up-and-coming fighters at 145 pounds who's scheduled to make his UFC debut in June on that card in Minneapolis, but things have taken quite the turn in his life, and I'm happy and very appreciative to have Vince Murdock joining me on the show right now. How are you, Vince? Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Yeah, could be better, but I'm well.
So I want to start back a few months ago, because you get the call to fight Jordan Griffin. You make it to the UFC. You were subsequently removed from the card because you weren't able to get medical clearance. And then news began to surface that you were flagged by USADA, received a 20-month suspension. But it turns out that the USADA flag wasn't the reason that you were pulled from this card. And I know the story has been put out there on social media and on the web a little bit. But for those who don't know, can you talk about what happened and what you learned during those pre-fight medical tests?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit more recent just because the more testing I got, the more praying that I was hoping that it wasn't as serious as they were making it out to seem, because it was hard to like come to grip, because at first they just said it was like a stenosis, right? They never diagnosed me with anything, and they never really told me what like how serious it was, I guess. So it's like for the longest time I would just go get another test, and I was like, all right, this test will clear me, or, this will be the one that, will, further like tell me what's going on. I didn't realize, how dangerous and serious it was until like maybe, 4 or 5 weeks ago. So, during fight week in the medicals and stuff, they just told me that I had a narrowing or a blockage in my brain, and I just thought maybe that my body is compensated and that it was normal. Surely it seemed like it would be normal. I'd made it this far without any complications, to my knowledge. So I just thought, like, all right, we're just going to require some more testing and make sure that my brain's adequate. So my MRIs showed that the health of my brain is fine, right? But it just shows that it's not receiving any more blood flow, meaning that it's running off reserves and like other. Maybe the right side's kind of making up for the left side, basically, and it's finding ways to compensate, but there's no like direct blood flow to that side of the brain, which was kind of scary to hear at first, but yeah, that's kind of where it's at.
And this condition's called moya.
Yeah, so that was the other thing too. Is like I didn't know, it was hard to like being diagnosed with the disease now, or the condition called moya. Like for a long time, I just thought it was something. It was a blockage, and it turns out it's not. There's nothing blocking it at all. There's nothing in there. It's just like the walls of my vessels are really, really like thick. So like it's like a really narrow hallway basically, and the walls are just like touching each other, and it just kind of is like a disease where that happens, and they just kind of collapse on each other, and there's no blood flow.
As someone who has been working so hard to get to the UFC, you finally get the call. You must have been on cloud 9 getting the word that this has happened for you.
Yeah, that was, I can't explain, like, the beginning of the week it was the best week of my life, and then by the end of the week it was like the worst week of my life. And all in all, I'm still pretty grateful that I was, gifted the opportunity, or, got the opportunity to get the call and get there. And then, the UFC being the reason that I got to, I found out that was what was wrong with me. So in a lot of ways, it was still a blessing, even though it seems like it was upsetting. So, they found it. So
I don't know if you know, did the doctors tell you like how this happened? I mean, with the rarity of it, is it something you've been dealing with for a long time and didn't know, or was it acquired over time? Like, were you given any explanation as to why this is happening?
Yeah, actually, that's been like my main question was, is this fight related? Obviously, if it's fight related, like, that seems pretty scary. But it's actually not, like, it's not impact or related in a sense, like, it's not fight related at all. It's just genetic is the only thing that they can place it at, which seems so weird because I've never really noticed anything that stood out other than that maybe I fatigued, which I've always thought that I fatigued it pretty fast compared to my peers or my teammates, which would make sense now that my brain needs a higher demand for blood because it's not getting blood. But nothing. It's not. I mean, I've asked numerous times, like, is there any way this could be fight related? Like, what could be the cause of this? It's not diet related. It's not fight related. It's. They say the only thing that it could be is that I was possibly born with this, and that as it's gotten worse, my body's found ways to compensate. And he's like, if this were to happen like overnight, let's say, it would have presented itself like an event, a traumatic experience. And he's like, you would have known the day that it happened because it would have, you know what I mean? Once it's shut, your body doesn't have time to compensate like that quickly, meaning it's something that's happened over a progression of time, which is why I was probably born with it. They think that being an athlete is probably what saved my life, just because the more exercise I do, the more it dilates your blood and it allows for more blood flow to the brain. Versus if you don't exercise, there's no need to push blood around it, if that makes any sense.
So to fix this, surgery is needed. And, I read the article on MMA Junkie that Nolan King put out. When are you scheduled to have the surgery?
I'm scheduled November 13th at Stanford. I'm nervous at the same time, but at the same time, I want to just have it taken care of, and I'm symptomatic, so it's like kind of like a ticking time bomb, right? I don't want to stroke before I get the surgery, but I don't want to get the surgery either, so it's kind of a weird thing, but so November 13th is when I'm scheduled to go in.
The MMA community, and I've said this many times, can be very fickle at times. But one thing that I love about it, despite all the negativity that you see, is when something like this happens, the community comes together in a big way. Now, Urijah Faber, members of your team at Team Alpha Male, they've come together to raise awareness, to help raise money for the surgery that I've heard is upwards of $400,000 to have. There is a GoFundMe campaign to raise around half of the cost. The goal is set right now for $195,000. So far, there's close to $25,000 in there, and people say that this is a selfish sport, right? Like others say it's a team sport, and I'd imagine that you're more on the latter side of this. What does this support mean to you, especially knowing that you don't have to go through all of this by yourself?
Honestly, I've just started talking about it because in a lot of ways I was embarrassed to ask for help. I was embarrassed that if people knew that I had like a brain or a head injury, that I would no longer be the athlete that I was. The athlete, I'd be the guy that had a brain injury or something, or I didn't have all the answers to answer the questions that people are asking now, like, is this fight related? What's this mean? Are you done fighting? So I didn't really want to speak about it too much, and that's why I haven't really talked about it. Because I didn't know how to combat the questions that were going to come with it, and I was nervous that I wouldn't get I was nervous I wasn't going to get the support, and it would be like a direct reflection of someone's character, and it would have been really scary to come out with this and nobody be like, hey, we got your back, because you just don't know what people are how they're going to feel. And, Urijah is actually the one that really kind of like stood up to the plate and was like, hey man, like we're going to do whatever it takes to get you the help you need. And that stood out, and just it meant a lot to me, just because I didn't even know how to talk about it, and he was just like, look, man, this isn't like getting a new car. You know what I mean? It's is your health and your brain, and that comes first, and we'll figure this out. And that's just kind of how it's been. But without that community and that support system, I'm not sure I would have been able to equipped to handle a lot of what's going on. It's made me a lot stronger, I guess.
You mentioned that this is a difficult thing to talk about, and I can't really relate. I can't imagine what you're going through, but was there a time where you kind of like bottled this all up and sort of withheld this information in fear of that? What kind of brought you on to to reaching out and talking to Urijah and other members of the community around you? What was that moment for you where you're like, you know what, I have to talk about this. I have to like just kind of get this off my chest and let people know what's going on.
So I've known for a while. If you look back as far as like my earlier posts, you can tell that I stopped posting for a while and was kind of disappeared on social media. And just, my last interview was at the MMA Awards, and it was like, the UFC just requires me a few more tests, but I'll be back in here before you know it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it went from being me thinking that this was just going to be taken care of really quick to, as soon as I found out that I needed brain surgery was like when I was just didn't know how to answer things. And that was that kind of that spot where like I didn't know, when I knew when I knew that I needed like a surgery to live and stuff like that was like probably when it was difficult.
How do you feel right now? I mean, you kind of touched on it, but is this condition something that you feel at all? Like, is there any pain associated with it? Like, how would you describe it?
I'm symptomatic, but not like I haven't experienced a stroke. Some of the scans show that maybe sometimes I'm nervous to talk about it because I don't know what I should say and what I should say. But my scans show that it's possible that I've experienced some sort of stroke-like activity in my brain. I experienced a few symptoms like, it's going to attack the right side of my body. So if I do have a stroke, it'll probably be on the right side. I've experienced some things that in my past that kind of make sense now, with like my having like a dead arm. The more I've taken off from training, because I can't lose blood flow to my head, so I haven't been training. I've started to feel more symptoms since I've stopped exercising. So, because now I'm like really in tune with my body, where it's like I could chalk a lot of things up to practice or, you know what I mean? I used to always blame everything on just a hard day in the gym. Like, if I'm banged up, I'd be like, well, that makes sense. I get beat up every fucking day. But now that I'm not doing much, I just have a few clients here and there, and I work out with them, and I'm able to really like pay attention to my body. And they're subtle, my vision gets spotty here and there. I just recently went in and I got some blood thinners and stuff, and they put me on a blood thinner. That seems to be doing pretty good. I don't think I'm in any serious danger. I think there would have been a sense of urgency if that were the case from the doctors, but they think I'll be all right. There's no telling, like, I'm young enough to where it makes me that my body's compensated. It just they don't know how long, and they don't want to put off a surgery that there's no telling when the day that my brain just stops doing, making up for that narrowing, basically.
I'm sure with everything going on, fighting is probably like the last thing on your mind right now.
It's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, you want this taken care of. You want to come out of this thing just live a normal life. And I can understand that. In terms of your fighting career, has that discussion been had about your future, or is it sort of a wait and see how the surgery goes, how you react to it, and then you can have that conversation? What have you been told by the doctors in terms of your fighting future at this point?
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the reasons why Stanford. UFC wanted me to see a university doctor to begin with, and what I have is really rare, so it requires me to see a specialist. And Stanford being, I think, one of the only places in America that has what's called a Moya Moya Center, which is like, ironically enough, what I have, and they're right next to Sacramento. So, he, depending on how well my body handles the surgery, he sees no issues with me returning to fighting, which has been like a huge relief because I've never been able to be anything other than an athlete. Even, I realize that I am more than just an athlete, but I've always competed. It's always been my focus, and that was a scary thing in trying to like comprehend a life without fighting. So, he's optimistic, not optimistic. He's confident that if he's able to perform the procedure and the surgery and he monitors it, he wouldn't have a problem clearing me to compete. First things first, though, I can't have a stroke, right? Because strokes are like kind of a permanent damage to your brain. And 2, I have to have the surgery. So there's like, I have to get through the surgery first and see how my body adapts to the new blood flow and stuff like that. So, yeah, honestly, I'm just really excited to get back to training. Like, bored as fuck right now.
How did the UFC react to all of this?
I don't think they really knew too much about. They, like, all their doctors, they all thought that they were really confident. They're like, we really don't think this is a career-ending thing. We didn't think, they're the ones that kept me in like high hopes this entire time, because they're like, we don't think this is career-ending for you. It's like, they were the ones that told me it's normal to be abnormal. Like, normal people don't exist. Like, abnormalities are normal. And like, he's like, nobody's perfect. He's like, it might be difficult for some commissions, but if you're cleared, you're cleared, and that's what it's going to come down to is, making sure that my brain function and blood flow is equivalent to the next person's, basically.
You had mentioned that this is going to make you stronger. It's already making you stronger, but what has this whole situation done for your overall perspective? Do you look at things differently? Do you feel like it's changed the way that you approach things, approach life? Like, how has this whole thing kind of changed your mentality on everything else around you outside of the fight game?
Honestly, like, the whole year before this happened, I think it's kind of equipped in me to handle this too, because I've had some tough times just getting here, and without those tough times, I'm not sure I would have been able to handle this as well as I am. It's made me, when I first found out, there was like a lot of doctors telling me there's no way that I would ever fight again. Like, it's impossible. And I guess that was, that gave me a perspective like, man, if I ever get a chance to fight again, I would do things, I would work harder. Not that I never worked hard before, but I look at the mat now and I watch the guys practice and I'm like, man, like, I can't even, like, I would have known like 2 weeks ago that was my last day, rolling around on the mat. I don't want to say I took things for granted, because I was always really, really appreciative of being able to compete and having help to compete. And, I was the first one. I've always been so quick to say how lucky I am to do this sport at the level. But if it's taught me anything, it's just being able to, cherish every second a little more. And it's really shown me who's there for me. Your friends, like, people care, and that's really stood out. It's helped a lot. Me and my wife, I feel like we've grown closer. I feel like she's like doubled down on all my dreams and everything. She's like, really helped me get through, tell me we're going to get through this, just constantly reassuring that this day will pass, this situation's going to pass. And I think it's how I handle myself during this time that is going to make, those future parts come to fruition. Whether it's fighting, I got to focus on, handling the things right now.
You mentioned being nervous about having the surgery and everything. And you're having brain surgery, so how can you not be nervous? But is there also a sense of relief knowing that this was caught? What sort of outweighs the other here? Is it the nerves, or is the sort of the sense of relief that you have an answer and that there's a way to fix this thing?
Yeah. 1 second, I'm really nervous that I got to go in. Like, it's the same thing. I always try to handle things the same. Fight's the same, right? I don't like to think about the fight until I get there and I handle every situation as I handle it, right? Because I don't want it to be in the back of my mind and I'm thinking about it and it's fucking 8 weeks away and I'm beating myself up over something. So I kind of treated it like a fight, and it is a fight, just a different kind of fight. And I try not to think about it too much, but the other day, I YouTube what the surgery would look like, and it is gnarly. And was not pumped to see that. They treat you like a Mr. Potato Head, and it is wild, man. And that is nerve-wracking. some of the stuff that comes along with the surgery is nerve wracking, but at the same time, it's also nervous to know that there's no blood flow going on in the left side, and like anytime like something could happen. So that's nervous too. So at the same, it's a little bit of both, you know. I want to really get it done. I want to get it behind me, and some days I want to like just, you know, have it done right now, and then other days I'm just like, man, I wish we could push the surgery date.
It's how hard was that? I'm sure you had that conversation with yourself many times to YouTube the video and see how it was.
Oh,
did you have that? Did you have that fight within yourself quite a bit? And what made you pull the trigger this time?
Yeah, because people would be like, "Have you ever seen that?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Have you seen pictures?" And I had one guy just like send me like a random person sent me like a thing of like what the scar would look like. And I was just like, and I'm so good at not doing that. Like, I don't study people's film. I don't worry about any of that stuff. I've always been really good at that. And yeah, it's always it's been pretty difficult staying away because like you get curious, you know it's serious, and people like don't know how to talk to you because they're like, hey, how's, you know what I mean? Like, how you feeling, big guy? And it's like, I feel fucking fine, man. I'm not, you know, leave me, like, they treat me like I'm got the plague or something. But so it does make me wonder, like, you know, sometimes I treat it like it's not a big deal, and then sometimes I'm like, fuck, man, they're gonna pop my head off like operation.
As many can attest to, I'm a very optimistic, positive guy in this space. I jokingly say that I do these interviews from a soapbox of positivity, and it's obviously a very scary situation that you're going through. But obviously you're going to go in, you're going to have the surgery, everything's going to be okay. What's the goal that you've set for yourself? Is it to do everything that you can to get that shot with the UFC, to get in the octagon? Is it to, you know, give back and help raise awareness, to help others going through what you're going through? Like, what becomes sort of your goal set, your mindset, your light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak?
I mean, given that, you know, I had to look at this a lot of different ways. I had to think, like, if this wasn't found out, I probably would have stroked and, you know, either had some serious complications for the rest of my life, or I could have stroked and died. So I'm oops. Jeez. So I guess it'd be goal setting. I obviously want to be. I feel like this has made me a better person. You know, a better human to other people, more understanding, more compassionate. Me needing help realizes the need for other people that need help, and it would just be one goal at a time. And I've always kind of been like a goal setter, and ultimately my goal would be to make it to see myself compete, and yes, obviously in the UFC. That's all I've ever wanted, and that's still all I want. So it's that's definitely probably the goal. So yeah, let's get through this, you know, one step at a time, obviously. But yeah, I would say that's the goal. I want to be back.
What is the message to everybody watching this right now? To those supporting you and rallying around you, to those who are hearing about this for the very first time, what is the message for everybody?
I had a message. It'd probably be that, you know, if there's anything that you're going through, man, it's not over. It's never over. There's forks in the road. You know, this is something just like, you know, any tough thing. Everybody's battle is different, but it's still the battle that they're facing. And there's still, you know, it's never over. I mean, second chance or not, like, whether you get it or you don't, it doesn't mean that it's the end. You know, if I can't fight again, it doesn't mean that's you know, that's not me. I'm not just the athlete, right? You know, I'm a husband now. You know, hopefully be a father someday. There's many other things and other avenues in life. So it would just be that it's never over. And it's someone that's been somewhat close to it being over, and happy that it's not. That would be my message: is that just don't give up. And it doesn't have to be, you know, there's going to be times to make adjustments and change your plans, but that doesn't need to define you and change who you are. So yeah, that'd be my message. It's not over.
For those who want to help out here, the GoFundMe page, you just go to GoFundMe.com. The page is titled Save Vince's Brain. I'll have the link in the description. What a title that is. That's very simplistic. Yeah. You'll see it in the article. It's going to come out. You'll see it in the screen as well right here. If you have the means, please help out. Let's rally as a community and help Vince out here. Vince, I really appreciate your time talking about this. I'm sure it wasn't easy, and it means a lot. Before we let you go, anything else you want to get off your chest? Anything else you want to say to everyone watching this? Any other way we can help you out here?
I appreciate everybody that's, supports or, sending prayers and thoughts and people reaching out. If you can't donate, understand that not all of us are in positions to donate. I've been there myself many times, but a share can go a long ways, and, or just even a prayer would mean a lot to me, even a message, reaching out, whatever. And thank you. Just the amount of support and my team, my family, my friends, my wife, find a good support system, because that's what's got me through this, and it's been helpful. So thanks everybody. And if you want to support, that's cool. If not, that's cool too.
Sending all the best your way, wishing you all the best of the upcoming surgery. And I have to say, Vince, the way you're handling this all is very inspiring. It's a true inspiration. I think people are going to take something from this. And I want to thank you for the time and opening up and talking about this. I appreciate it very much, and all the best to you and your family.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care.
You too. Bye.